Good morning. Welcome to CATEX-TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Tuesday, January 5th, 2010. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. It's 4:30 p.m. in London. In Mexico City, it's 10:30 a.m. And if you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL instant mail address is CATEX-TV. We have a little bit of economic news that's come in. U.S. November factory orders are up 1.1%. This is according to the U.S. Commerce Department this morning. This is a 1.1% rise in the month of November. Economists surveyed by MarketWatch had been expecting 0.8%. So this is a little better than that. On the other hand, pending home sales plunged 16% in the U.S. in the month of November, largely due to the expiration of a highly popular tax credit for first-time home buyers. So the stock market actually is down about 35 points right now after a fairly big day yesterday. Now to our main news. The president of Iceland, pictured here, Olafur Ragnar Grimsson, said this morning that he has and will refuse to sign legislation that would compensate the governments of Great Britain and the Netherlands over the failure of the IceSave Bank. Instead, the president is calling for a national referendum on the issue instead. President Grimsson said this morning in a televised speech that he had decided to refer this legislation to the people, adding that the public must determine its future course. The bill, called the IceSave Bill, calls for the payout of $5.4 billion to the governments of Britain and the government of the Netherlands, after those two governments compensated over 320,000 customers of IceSave who lost money in the collapse of the Internet Savings Bank. The government of Holland said it was extremely disappointed at the decision and called for an explanation. A spokesman for the finance ministry said that the Netherlands maintains that Iceland is compelled to pay back the money. The spokesman went on to say, "We expect of the government of Iceland to give us an explanation in the short term of the situation created now and the steps to be taken." Back in Iceland, the compensation bill has sparked anger in the population. The country was hit by a financial meltdown back in October of 2008. About 60,000 people, about 25% of the country's electorate, signed a petition protesting against the bill and demanding that the issue be put up for a national referendum. A correspondent on the scene, Al Jazeera's Jonah Hull, said that the domestic distaste for this bill stems from the feeling among many Icelanders that they don't want, as taxpayers, to be paying for the sins of their banks. They feel that their country is in no position to pay for $5 billion to Britain and the Netherlands. Wow! Could you imagine if they had done that here with AIG after we paid back Societe Generale and everybody else? Interesting. There was a 5.5 magnitude earthquake off Taiwan earlier this morning. It was not causing any immediate damage or injuries. The quake hit at 3:27 a.m. Well, it's only about 18 miles southeast of the coast in the eastern part. No tsunami alert was issued or anything of the sort, so it may have just caused some swaying in Taipei, but that's it. Meanwhile, down in the Solomon Islands, more and more problems continue. Let me decipher this map for you. The backdrop, or the yellow boxes, those are the earthquakes that occurred yesterday morning. The blue boxes occurred in the past 12 hours. And the red box, which is a 5.0, occurred an hour ago. This area has been being racked by earthquakes and aftershocks. About 1/3 of the population on one of the islands have seen their homes destroyed. From the air, damage could be seen on a remote western island after a 7.2 magnitude earthquake, that's one of the yellow ones in the back, triggered landslides. No injuries have been reported miraculously. Even though a tsunami wave of about 10 feet high hit the island. The island was Rendova. It's about 190 miles from the capital of Honiara. Only 3,600 people live there. Fortunately, according to a police commissioner, people here are very sensitive as a quake conjures up memories, and they immediately begin going to higher ground. One local shopkeeper said that the general rule is if there's anything more than 20 seconds of shaking or any seawater recedes, which of course presages a tidal wave, head for the hills. Fortunately, most of the people in the Solomons follow that advice. Meanwhile, in the UK, heavy snow and freezing temperatures have continued to cause problems on roads and rail links. It also forced the closure of 2 airports and hundreds of schools. Manchester and Liverpool airports, that would be John Lennon Airport, closed down temporarily. A significant amount of snow has fallen overnight and continues to fall at the airport and across Greater Manchester, said a spokesman for the airport. Meanwhile, some train services between London and Leeds were cancelled. In Scotland, flights were delayed at Aberdeen and Glasgow, while train services were disrupted between Glasgow and Edinburgh. There were also delays on trains from Glasgow down to London. Hundreds of schools were closed in Scotland and northern England, as well as 60 all the way as far in the central part of the country as North Yorkshire. In the south, London had freezing temperatures, although forecasters said snow is expected to move into the area later today. In Africa, heavy flooding across Kenya has killed at least 35 people. This raises the previous death toll, which had been 22. They discovered 12 additional bodies that had been swept away by raging waters down in the Rift Valley. Torrential rains have deluged several parts of the country since Christmas, sweeping away homes, destroying crops and livestock, and displacing at least 20,000 people. You don't hear too much about copper these days because of fiber optics, but if you remove a cog in the copper industry, things happen. Workers at 2 Chilean mines owned by Codelco, the state-controlled copper mining giant, have gone on strike demanding higher wages. This is the Chuquicamata mine, which is in Chile, one of the mines affected by the strike. It is the largest open strip mining copper mine in the world. The job action has helped send copper prices to a 17-month high. It's expected to be short-lived. Workers are due to vote on a revised contract later today. About a third of the unionized workers at the Chuquicamata and Minas Sur mines refused to turn up for work yesterday or today. These 2 mines together account for 4% of the world's copper production. The company, Codelco, stood to lose $8 million per day of the strike action. Both mines belong to Codelco. It produces 1.6 million tons of copper per year and employs about 5,600 workers. Well, the stock market is down about 35 points. We'll go to a word from our sponsors and come back with the rest of the news. There's an interesting story from Saudi Arabia. High natural catastrophe claims there have forced insurers to review underwriting terms. This is according to Fahad.